Welcome to the Mayor of Money podcast with former Burlington Mayor Rick Goldring, CEO of Goldring Financial Leadership. In this podcast, we provide successful business owners with cutting-edge information and strategies in the areas of estate and financial planning, including wealth and risk management. The podcast also features exclusive interviews with very successful entrepreneurs that Rick has known and worked with during his career. Now, on to the show.
So my special guest today on the Mayor of Money podcast is Colleen Mulholland, the president and CEO of the Burlington Foundation. And Colleen, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the Mayor of Money podcast. I know you've got much information to share. I know firsthand the great work of the Burlington Foundation and foundations across Canada, but many people don't. So could you provide us with a bit of history as to how foundations were established and a little bit of history about the Burlington Foundation?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having me join you for this chat today. I can't think of a better time right now in our world than to be talking about investing in your community. So thank you for having me here. The Burlington Community Foundation was born about 23 years ago. So as a community foundation, we're relatively new. Hamilton, as an example, was born in 1954. So we are one of 191 community foundations across Canada. And I think the beautiful thing about community foundations, public foundations, is that we are born of the community. So it's the will of community members coming together to say, we want a foundation to support in our community, to support the needs in our community and to support the wishes of donors and fund holders.
So you're talking about fund holders. What I like about the foundation is that people can create a pool of capital. They can do it in a tax effective way, and they can turn the management of that money over to the foundation, but they can direct where they want the earnings on their contribution to go. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. You're right. We're here to serve the needs of our donors, our fund holders, and our community. And so we have currently about 110 separate endowment funds, and we can talk about endowment funds versus term funds and agency funds perhaps later in the program. But endowment funds are established by donors and fund holders who are interested in a particular area or passionate about a particular area, whether that's mental health or conservation, animal welfare, food security. There's a myriad of passions that our donors have. And so they establish endowment funds primarily because they want their legacy to continue on in perpetuity. They want to give today, but they want to give in the future, beyond their life, beyond their children's life, their grandchildren's life, and so on. So they establish endowment funds with an opening capital balance of no less than $25,000. And that capital balance continues to grow every year. As you know, we invest those monies, we steward those investments, and then the earned income and a granting portion of that earned income is provided to charities every year based on the wishes of those fund holders. So we, in fact, are their charitable entity. We are their charitable CRA number. They hold their own foundation fund under our umbrella. And we steward their funds, based on their wishes annually. In some cases, throughout the year, again, that's tied to a term fund. But the beautiful thing about these almost big piggy banks that our fund holders establish is that we do all the heavy lifting. We manage the investments with a very strong investment committee on our board. And right now we're working with Guardian Capital to invest those dollars. We manage all the back office. We manage all the tax receipting for themselves and for folks that may donate to their fund. And we administer the grants on their behalf with a notation to the charity who's donating to their charity. So it's we call them our family of fund holders because they truly are a part of our family. They don't work in isolation. They work with us. And we guide and direct because we do know one of our pillars is we do know the high priority needs in our community. But we have donors that support across the country. We have some that support internationally, and we can do that as long as there's a Canadian CRA registered charity to flow that through. So we're here to support their wishes and their passions forever.
So, but somebody can donate $25,000, and they can do that while they're alive, or they can do that via their will. Because I work with a lot of people with regard to strategic philanthropy, and one of the agencies I like to work with is the foundation in the community, because you can structure it the way you want to structure it. But let's talk about that $25,000, whether it comes via a will or it comes from a donation while someone is alive. That's a complete tax deduction or complete charitable donation, and you do get your appropriate tax receipt for that, and up to usually 40%, but it can be as high as 50%. And then the money's invested. And so you got $25,000 invested, and you're getting earnings on it every year. And is it a case of the family or whoever makes the donation defines right up front where they want the contributable earnings to go each year, or can that change on an annual basis?
So a little bit of both. It's funny. I was just on a call with a potential donor who would like to leave the foundation a gift in her will. And so I was walking her through the two primary scenarios in doing that. You can openly leave a gift in your will to the community fund here at the foundation, and then that can be of any value, any amount, and then the foundation will invest that within the community fund itself, and that's part of our annual granting values that go out to community. If you're really passionate about a particular area, what I recommend is you establish an endowment fund that is connected to your bequest. It doesn't have to be opened up immediately, but the capital base does need to be $25,000 forever and a day for it to begin to earn that income and grant. In that way, it's like a catcher's mitt. It's available for your gift to be received at that time. And then the foundation knows exactly how you would like us to manage that gift. So you either designate some charities of choice, or you define the purpose and allow the foundation to make some decisions on where your annual grant gifts will go. But it's a named legacy fund, perhaps in your name or a loved one's name. And those are really two models of a bequest, if you will.
So you've been at this in your role for 11 years. That's a reasonable time frame. You've seen a lot of things happen in the community. You have worked with hundreds of donors. When you look back at your tenure, and I'm asking this recognizing that you're going to be retiring relatively soon, but when you look back at your tenure with the Burlington Foundation, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of as far as the impact that the organization's had on the community?
When I joined the foundation back in 2011, we were a newbie foundation. We were sitting at about $5.5 million in assets. And I think it was, it was a great start, but I think we were not terribly well known from a general public perspective. And it's very difficult, as you know. I mean, folks know about you because they're interested in you, is typically how it works, right? If they're not interested, they don't want to hear from you. But we have grown, our foundation from $5.5 million to close to $25 million today. I think we've gone from what folks might think of a foundation as being this, maybe an old boys club, folks with high net worth don't talk to a foundation unless you have $1 million or more, big P philanthropists. So we've grown it from perhaps that approach, which you need that approach to get it off the ground, to a foundation for the community. And we work with donors of all, within all demographics, within all community levels and multicultural community members. We work with donors that are just kicking off their foundation fund at $25,000 to those who have been with us or they've established a foundation fund with $3 million. And so there's all different models and sizes and shapes to our family of fund holders. And I talk to donors and work with donors who establish legacy funds because they want to get their kids involved in making decisions on where those grant gifts go. So their kids understand the needs in the community. We're very lucky here in Burlington, as you know, Mr. Mayor. We're a fantastic city to live and work and play in, but that doesn't mean we're without needs. And that doesn't mean that we don't have folks that are struggling to simply make ends meet. So it's fantastic to see family members come in, because they want to establish endowment to get their kids involved in giving. And we don't want that to be a lost art, right? We want that to continue on generations after us. So I think that's probably what I'm most proud of, is that lengthening of the mission and the mandate for the foundation.
Well, certainly increasing the capital that's invested that generates income for the community, going from just over 5 million to, I believe you said 25 million.
Yes.
In 11 years is a significant progress, and all involved, and obviously with you at the leadership at the helm, should feel very good about that, because that's just more impact that's going to be felt on many, many people in the community for decades to come. So
yeah, well, and since inception, since 1999, we've granted close to $8.5 million to charitable endeavors and charitable needs here in Burlington and Halton. There's no hard borders around Burlington. We have programs and services that reside in Oakville and Milton and Hamilton, and we have community members that access those services. So we're all about providing the support to the programs and services for the betterment of our community members, but they don't necessarily have to just reside within the city limits of Burlington.
Can you provide us with an example of one of those 100+ funds that you mentioned? Can you give us the background as to what precipitated the establishment of a particular fund within the foundation and what it's doing today?
Sure, I can think of a few. So often, sadly, we do have family members establish endowment funds because they want to honor a loved one that was recently, lost. And so we have the Now I Can Fund. And in fact, we do have a link to a very short video vignette on our website where Nancy Barlett and Dan Winnick are speaking about the reason why they established the Now I Can Fund within the Burlington Foundation many years ago now, when they lost their son and their brother in a motorcycle accident. And they wanted to make sure that Mark's legacy lived on forever. And how are they going to do that? And so they established this fantastic legacy fund. They take care of it every year. That's something that's very important. We want our fund holders to continue to gift, to have others gift to their endowment fund, so it continues to grow and continues to give to the purposes established. But that's a wonderful example of a family who had the ability, emotional ability to pause and say, how do we want to honor Mark? And it's a wonderful little vignette if folks have a chance to take a look at it on our website. And then we have others that establish scholarship funds. We believe, and I certainly believe, that the pathway to success for our children, is a solid, strong education, whatever form that takes, whether it's a trade or a college or a university. And again, we know a lot of kids here can't afford post-secondary, education. And so we have a number of fund holders who establish scholarships and bursary programs. We have some agencies that do that as well, because they want to encourage post-secondary education to ensure that our youth, have a leg up as they step out into the big, bold world. So there's different models. We have folks that are passionate about conservation, and their family gives constantly to conservation preservation initiatives in our communities. There's so many to choose from, Mayor, that I can't, those are just off the top of my mind.
I know one of the funds that comes to mind is the Beverly and Walter Mulkovich Fund.
Yes,
And the reason I mention that is because Walter sadly passed away fairly recently, earlier in
yes,
2022. And his three daughters stated in the obituary that in lieu of flowers, that donations could be made to the Beverly and Walter Mulkovich Fund, which is what I did. So they established the fund, or Walter probably established the fund after Beverly passed. And then that fund was receiving money as a result of Walter's passing, which can build on the impact they have. And I believe one of the focuses on the fund is mental health and mental health, mental wellness, or mental health agencies that the earnings go to on an annual basis. But there's an example of how that was set up and how it continues to receive funds after it was set up.
Yes, and that's, when Walter established that endowment fund with us, he was very enlightened. He established that as a field of interest fund, which is different than donor designated or even a defined purpose. He set it up so that the foundation would then look at those annual granting capabilities, and based on the needs and community, and a few top category priorities like mental health, like poverty, food security, the foundation makes decisions on that granting. So he established it, he stewarded it, he gifted to it annually. And his daughter Sharon, is wonderful. We've been spending some time with her as those gifts have been received. But he was comfortable with the knowledge and the insights of the community foundation to say, where best these dollars can be used. So please use them in that way. So he will be sad. He is sadly missed.
Yeah, no, definitely. But it is pretty special, for his family to see what he started will continue for many, many years to come and have a positive impact in the areas that he and his wife Beverly felt passionate about it. They're going to continue to make an impact in perpetuity. And that's what's so unique about the offerings of the foundation and the Burlington Foundation in particular. Well, Colleen, I think this has been very enlightening. I'm hoping that the people that are watching this get some ideas of how they can work with the foundation and establishing their own strategic objectives, because the foundation is a great organization to work with. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think it's fantastic if when folks hear about us, often they'd like to hear more about us and the great works that we and our family of donors and fund holders do in the community. As you know, as the mayor who was in charge of the flood here, that it was devastating in 2014, we are here to support needs today. It happens in rapid speed, and we step in. We're here to support the needs of donors today. We do have term funds that often gift on a very regular basis. They're not endowed. And then again, we have endowed funds and agency funds, which for our agency partners out there, many understand the value of establishing an agency fund. It is a source of operating revenue for them on an annual basis. They are entitled to 100% of that earned income as a charitable entity. And we work with quite a number, about 12 in the community. So there's different different models to what we can do now. And I encourage anyone who's interested to give me a ring or bounce onto our website and talk about how we can help them with their giving needs and desires.
And I guess the thing is, you're malleable, or you can be flexible, and whatever the objectives are, however somebody wants to structure it, you probably can figure out a way to make that happen, as well as to facilitate support of their charities of choice. But you did mention the flood back in 2014, where it was really devastating. It's almost 8 years ago now, but it was devastating for so many people. And when I asked Colleen and the foundation to step up and raise some money to help people that were affected in a very negative way by the foundation, it's pretty special that Colleen tapped Ron Foxcroft on the shoulder, who helped raise about $1 million within 100 days. And then the provincial government matched that 2 to 1. So we had about $3 million that we were able to pay out to various people in the community who many were devastated.
Devastated. Yeah. And that's thanks to your leadership, Mr. Mayor. So thank you on behalf of the community. And I still get heart palpitations when we have heavy rain, as we did on the week, a week Saturday.
You're not the only one.
No, I know.
With the heavy rain, having experienced it in so many different ways, not just in the community, but where I'm sitting right now, I had 5.5 feet of water in it in August of 2014. But once again, Colleen, a sincere thanks for all the work that you've done on the foundation for the last 11 years. I know you're going to be retiring relatively soon, and it won't be easy for the board to replace you, but you can look back with great pride on the tremendous impact that you've had on Burlington and area in so many different ways. So congratulations on your career, and thank you very much for spending time on the Mayor of Money podcast today.
No, thank you, Rick. I really enjoyed it. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Mayor of Money podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. If you'd like to have a one-on-one discussion with Rick or have an idea for a particular guest or topic, contact him at rick@rickgoldring.com. See you next time on the Mayor of Money podcast.